Thank you. We may be seated. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, can I invite a volunteer to give us a word of prayer? Anyone who's moved to give us a blessing for today? Thank you, ma'am.
Ngatinamate kuna mwari wedu wakatendeka muzita Jesu. Toda kutendai mangwanana ano nyasha dzenyu. Tinokutendai matisvitsa pano, tinotenda neungano yatinayo pano ivai pakati pedu. Tigoronga zvinhu zvinoita kuti nyika yedu ienderere mberi, vazhinji vasimudzirwe muzita renyu tanamata. Amen.
Thank you very much. That was a lovely prayer. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zabakwa Colin, and I'm the Deputy Director Communications from the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the second workshop on reviewing and drafting the implementation framework for community share ownership trusts and the reserved sectors. The first workshop, just to remind you, was successfully held in Mashonaland West Province last month, and this is a continuation. And now we have ministers on board. But before I call for introduction, Dr. Diru Nyoa, the Chief Director, Commerce, all permanent secretaries here present, senior government officials, President of the Chief Council, Chief Mchane Kumalo, other traditional leaders here present, captains of industry and commerce, members of the Fourth Estate. Just to make a quick announcement, you'll be allowed to cover this event until break, until tea at 10. Then afterwards, we'll be having closed sessions. So we'll invite you later for the vote of thanks as the day ends. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to call for introductions across the room. Allow me to call for introductions across the room. We'll start from the back. Can we have a roving mic? We just want the ministers to know who is here represented and which organization. Let's do this quickly. We are behind time. Thank you. Just your name, organization, and then you pass on the mic.
Murari wa Jefta, Manicaland office.
Good morning, honorable ministers. Tafara Chikumira, ZBC Bureau Chief, Midlands.
Newton Masait, ZRP, Queensland, PI.
Stole, PI.
Marazak Bersendro, PI.
Ongwe Francis ZANU-PF.
Good morning, honorable ministers and permanent secretaries. I'm Edward Mandea, OPC Mat South, representing honorable minister Baba A. Ngulove. Thank you.
Good morning, honorable ministers. My name is Mkondo, Masimba Mkondo, Deputy Director, Provincial Coordination.
Honorable, good morning, honorable ministers. My name is Agnes Gambora, Civil Registry.
Good morning, honorable ministers. My name is Koshen Mtisi, Director, OPC Midlands.
Morning, honorable ministers, secretaries, chiefs, and the colleagues. My name is
permanent secretaries, chiefs, senior government officials here present, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clever Chingwara. I stand in for the Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Masvingo Province. Thank you.
Good morning, honorable ministers. My name is Malcolm Mazemo, representing Honorable Minister Chitando, Minister of Mines and Mining Development. Thank you.
Morning, honorable ministers. I'm Chiware Fungai. I'm standing in for Honorable Monica Mchangwa, Minister of Women Affairs, Community, Small and Medium Enterprises Development. Thank you.
Livuka njani lonke, Chief Chetaute, Chairperson Mat South.
Good morning, honorable ministers and colleagues. My name is Albert Chikondo, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Veterans of the Liberation Struggle Affairs, representing Honorable Minister Monica Mavunga. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, honorable ministers, honorable MPs, Matsmambo, colleagues. I'm Senza Edgars, Secretary, Midlands Province.
Morning, honorable ministers, permanent secretaries and chiefs. Douglas Sunywa is my name, Minister of Industry and Commerce.
Good morning. I respect the protocol already established. Senator Chief Ngumbane, Provincial Chair, Midlands. Thank you.
Mangwanani Mose, ndini mambo msana, ndagamirira Maisenro.
Shtanga, Provincial Chair.
Good morning all. My name is Mudluri Maxo, Senator. I'm the chairperson of the Thematic Committee on Indigenization and Empowerment.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, there's one more. Yes, yes. Can you go and give Honorable Chidua the mic?
Good morning, honorable ministers. I'm Honorable Clemens Chidua, Member of Parliament for Zaga South, but also the chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Industry and Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. And thank you very much, everyone. It is a pleasure for us to have you here. You are important, you are stakeholders, you are also implementers. And this workshop, we look forward to coming up with a good draft for further submission. But before we start the program, I want to invite Mr. Mukondo so that tiombere madzimambo edu se tsika na magariro. Mr. Mukondo say. Leaders.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. I'm sorry, our honorable ministers. Tishakumbira mutibatsire tise maoko madzimambo edu. Tinoda kukudza our Senator Chief Gugumbani, vanova the chairperson of Middle East Provincial Assembly of Chiefs. Mkwana nzi tinotenda mauya tendereiwo tikudze mambo Musana majira paje tinotenda tokudza zvakare mambo Chitanga mlilo siyabonga ba.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mukondo. That was beautiful. Personally, I felt something move. This is a very important right, and we should always practice that. Let's clap for him. Honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to go straight into the program. Because of time, we are just going to be moving a bit fast. At this point, may I please call, I would like to announce the arrival of Honorable Mr. Richard Moyo, Minister for Mat North. Welcome, sir. Can we all give him a round of applause? Honorable Minister, it's a pleasure for us to have you, and thank you for coming. Most welcome. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, may you please allow me to call a man who I know is passionate for development, a man who is committed to his province. He is doing many things. I'm in some of the groups, WhatsApp groups for communicators. And I always see you every day. You know, my phone is flooded with your pictures. I like that. I like that. Keep it up, Honorable Minister. May I please call you up to the podium to give your welcome remarks. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as he comes forward. Another round of applause for the men. Thank you.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. I acknowledge the presence of the Minister of Industry and Trade, Honorable Mangaliso Ndlovu, also our Provincial Chairman for Matabeleland South Province, Honorable Minister Mugadza, Honorable Minister Richard Moyo, Acting Permanent Secretary, Industry and Commerce, Dr. Renyowa, Secretary for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Dr. Senza, representatives of other ministers who are absent and being represented, they are absent and being represented. Also other permanent secretaries who are in the House, our Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. Chidua, the Chairperson of Industry and Commerce, other honorable members of Parliament who are here, our provincial joke, our chiefs, Dr. Chief Ngungumban, and other Provincial Assembly of Chiefs chairpersons here present. Comrade Chimanyiwa, the Public Service Commission, and other provincial heads, departments, and agencies. representatives of the community share ownership trusts, captains of industry and commerce, other invited guests, good morning to you all. It is a distinct honor, befitting privilege for me to welcome you all to this consultative workshop on the draft implementation framework to community share ownership trust reserved sector here at Village Lodge, Gweru, Midlands Province. As I extend my warm hospitality to you all, my heart is filled with great pleasure and gratitude for the opportunity to host this transformational endeavor, which is guided by the Second Republic's drive towards an inclusive private sector-led economic growth and development trajectory. Accordingly, this engagement platform directly affirms His Excellency the President of the Republic, Comrade Dr. Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa's desire for structured and sustainable community empowerment through purposeful reforms that will revive and operationalize community share ownership trust and strengthen reserved sector operations as directed during the 15th Cabinet meeting on June 3, 2025. Subsequently, as we transition to NDS2, more transparent, accountable, and people-centered community share ownership trusts and reserved sectors must play a pivotal role in propelling communities' socio-economic gains towards a prosperous and empowered upper middle income society by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, the Community Share Ownership Trust resonates with the Second Republic's heritage-based modernization and industrialization agenda, which is anchored on harnessing local resources and empowering indigenous people to spearhead innovation that addresses local problems, guided by the President's mantra of Nyika Inowakwa Igotongwa Nevenevaya. Furthermore, Section 13 and Section 14 of the Constitution of Republic of Zimbabwe provides a clear guidelines for broad-based economic empowerment, which must be supported by all institutions and agencies of government. Ladies and gentlemen, since the inception of the Second Republic in November 2017, under the visionary leadership of His Excellency, Comrade Dr. Emerson Mnangagwa, the Midlands Province has experienced robust foreign and domestic investments in agriculture, mining, manufacturing, construction, where our province boasts of more than 12 different high-value minerals that include gold, lithium, antimony, chrome, diamond, coal, and the recently discovered huge deposit of coalbed methane. To this end, the Midlands provincial GDP continues to grow, anchored by agriculture, mining, manufacturing, tourism and construction, wholesale and retail, among others. The development trajectory of the Midlands reflects national economic growth as obtained in other provinces which are more or less endured. I am therefore glad to note that the ultimate goal of this consultative forum is to ensure that local communities benefit from the natural resources in their areas by granting them a stake and power in determining the exploitation of the resources in their areas. More importantly, the Second Republic's bold move to rejuvenate community share ownership trust will positively impact on previously established trusts such as Tongogara, Mberengwa, and Sishavane in the Midlands Province, as well as potential of new ones from the current investments across the province. In view of the foregoing, some of the major investments in the extractive sector realized in Midlands Province with the potential to have community share ownership trust includes the Dingson Iron and Steel Company, which also has a capacity to generate power to a tune of 50 megawatts. Chegetai Investments, Sabi Mimosa Unki and Mroa Diamonds, among several others. Ladies and gentlemen, the Midlands Province is in full support of the leadership of His Excellency, the President of the Republic, Comrade Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, that entrenches sustainable community empowerment through effective local resource utilization. In this regard, appropriate reforms and institutional support are critical in driving community share ownership trust and the reserved sector to become part of the Vision 2030 accelerator models. This consultative workshop therefore presents a valuable opportunity to engage meaningfully, share experience, and contribute ideas that will shape a more coherent and actionable implementation framework. I urge you all to participate actively to contribute to discussions drawing from various experience and insight to collectively craft a framework that is both practical and responsive to the needs of our people. I once again welcome you all to Midlands Province, the pinnacle heartbeat and resource center of Zimbabwe, where Mbulo is found. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much for that lovely speech. Another round of applause for the Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen. We are sharing Wi-Fi codes. The ushers are coming with the Wi-Fi codes. Now to the next item on our program, ladies and gentlemen. Please allow me to call men I know to push industrial growth, industrialization. These days we are dealing with anti-smuggling as well. He's the man behind that. And today he's going to talk about community share ownership. And he's going to also talk about reserve sectors. These are his areas. I can say he's a young minister and he is also a role model to some of us. And one day I remember having a conversation with him and I said, when I grow up, I now want to be a minister, you know, after seeing him in action, you know. I don't know if I'm ambitious, Honorable Minister, but please now allow me to call Honorable Minister for Industry and Commerce, Honorable N.M. Ndlovu, to the podium.
Thank you very much, our program director, Comrade Zavakwa. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, this morning to recognize our host minister, Honorable O. Ngube. We call him Mbul. You heard him say, this is where you find Mbul, the pinnacle, heartbeat, and resource center of this country. We appreciate your presence, Honorable Minister. I recognize the presence of Honorable Richard Moyo, who is the Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Mat North Province, also the chairman of the ruling party in that province. My brother, Honorable Advocate Mukata, all the way from Manicaland. We recognize you here, Honorable Minister. I hear there are some representing ministers. I recognize you in your capacity as representatives of ministers. Madzishedu inkosi zethu ngithanda ukuthi ngilihloniphe nginanzelela ubukona bama chairpersons of Provincial Chiefs Council. Allow me to recognize the permanent secretaries who are here. And if I was following the introductions closely, we have two chairpersons of parliamentary portfolio committees, one on industry and commerce, Honorable Chidua, and one on indigenization and economic empowerment. I hope I got it right. Honorable Mdluri. Allow me to recognize all senior government officials who are here, invited guests. I see there are members also from the private sector. And if we have also people from parastatal state-owned entities, we recognize you. I had a speech prepared, but I thought I would make remarks just to outline what this meeting is all about. And my apologies, I know we had quite a number of people who had expressed interest to participate in this meeting. In our preparations, I think there is a lot that we could have done better, because we are assigned by the President to be a listening government, and a listening government offers opportunities to the public to express themselves, particularly in critical policy-making stages like we have today. So it's something that we will work on with my team. We meet here, as has been highlighted briefly by our program director, following a two-day session that took place in Chinoy, where we had the technical teams, including all the CEOs of the surviving community share ownership trusts, representatives from the offices of ministers of state at director level, I'm told, and also from the districts who have prepared or who have contributed to a document that will be presented by the technical team experts who are here today. Why we find ourselves at this stage, colleague delegates, you will recall that around 2011, 2012, government launched the program on indigenization and economic empowerment, primarily through the establishment of community share ownership trusts, with the intention to have communities also acquiring or getting a stake in the operations that are taking place in their areas. And in this case, we focused more in the mining or the extractive sector. That program lived its life. Our desire was to have all our rural district councils establish community share ownership trusts. And I know as government, we registered deed of trust for all the districts. But not every district is mineral endowment. So already we had some districts that were able to benefit. Initially, I think we had around 26. We will have the more detailed presentation coming later. But we had about 14 that got meaningful finances, and some of them got quite a lot of money to the tune of around 10 million US dollars. And the focus was to say, as communities, you need to be able to drive your own development, to meet certain essential needs based on the resources that you have as the communities. We saw in 2019 a policy shift in the ushering in of the Second Republic, where the president came in to open Zimbabwe for investment. He said Zimbabwe is open for business. And as he engaged the business sector, what he encountered in the main were reservations around ceding 51% of ownership, where you would have invested and you have to cede 51%. And he said to open up Zimbabwe for investment, all the minerals, except at the time, I think diamonds and platinum, all the other minerals were opened up to say you can have full shareholding at 100%. A year later, those minerals also were opened up. Now, that had an effect on the community share ownership trust. And the effect was that these companies felt they were no longer compelled to support the communities where they are operating. At best, they will be benevolent, they will be at their pleasure. They will then be giving the communities what they want. Now, we have gone back to cabinet to say, President, I know you have been clear that in developing the country, you are leaving no one and no place behind. And you have also charged us that in whatever we do, we need to abide by the Constitution at all times. Your Excellency, Section 13 of the Constitution, subsection 4, clearly says that the government should make sure that the communities benefit from the natural resources in their areas. How do we proceed? The President was surprised that we have been sleeping on duty, that we do not have a comprehensive framework for communities to benefit as is charged by the Constitution. We were given 3 weeks with the colleague Minister of Finance. I extend his apologies. He's today presenting before the Cabinet Committee chaired by the President on budget in the preparation for the midterm budget. We were given 3 weeks to get back to Cabinet with a comprehensive framework for Cabinet approval. So following that directive, we then assigned the team of technical experts to bring in everyone in society who will be helpful in couching a framework that will see community share ownership trusts enter on a sustainable path. A path where communities play a pivotal role in developing our country. A path where communities will lead in industrializing the areas where we are, in creating employment, and in making sure that there is meaningful value addition of our resources where we come from. To divert a bit, those who have studied China's development, maybe from 1978, when China begins to institute reforms, their key resource as China was human capital. I had the privilege of spending my last 2 weeks in China, and I spent time with the chairpersons of successful companies that are now in the Fortune 500. And they have faith in Zimbabwe. They told us that what took China 45 years can take Zimbabwe 15 years. But that is if we know what our key resource is, and if we appreciate how we can utilize that key resource to accelerate our development. China was known for what people call cheap labor. They utilized their numbers to make sure that they were producing their products that could penetrate global markets. But today, the average salaries in China are above 5,000 US dollars. They have been able to grow their economy and improve the livelihoods of their people. When I was discussing with them, I asked them, so what would you think is our source of competitive advantage that we can use to propel our development? Their view is that there is no country in the world that has the concentration of minerals per capita than Zimbabwe. And they believe that if we are able to frame the beneficiation or the benefits of our mineral endowments to support and to grow our economy, we will accelerate our path to upper middle income economy. So when I look at the program on economic empowerment, the first session this morning will be on community share ownership trust. I am reminded of that conversation. How can our people propel or grow our areas where we are on the basis of the minerals that we have? And I look forward to the presentation that the technical committee will have. And I hope that we will contribute, all of us, towards making sure that this framework is robust and this framework will stand the test of time. It will be sustainable, and we'll be talking of an even better community share ownership trust program after this session. I don't intend to be very long. Suffice to say that among the critical issues that we have asked ourselves, which I will be expecting that we contribute towards, is whether the equity model is what will work for our community share ownership trust. Again, whether or not the structure of the trust itself is fit for purpose. Does it respond to the dynamic needs of the business environment where these trusts will be operating in? Should we restrict only from benefiting directly from what these companies are doing, or there is more that can be done to enrich community benefits coming from these operations? I pose these questions knowing fully well that by lunchtime they will be answered fully by the delegates that are here. Colleagues, I look forward to a very fruitful discussion, and we hope to emerge out of this with a framework that will work for our country, with a framework that will uplift the livelihoods of our people, as the President has always said, that he is leaving no place and no one behind. I thank you.
Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the Honorable Minister. Beautiful speech, Honorable Minister. Thank you so much. Just to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that we are also streaming live on ZTN, and on your desks there, we have put a QR code for the Zimbabwe Industrial Reconstruction and Growth Plan 2024-2025. So if you scan that QR code, you are able to get a soft copy of the book, and you can always refer to all these things that are being talked about. Moving on, with your indulgence, Honorable Ministers, we were supposed to break for tea now, but I hope you allow me to call for just one presentation on the draft CISO's implementation framework. Then after that, we break for tea. Thank you. So allow me at this point, ladies and gentlemen, to call Mr. Hovele. Mahovele, thank you for that, Honorable Minister. Mr. Mahovele, thank you. Round of applause for Mr. Mahovele. I think he's a guru in CISOs, this one. We'll find out soon. You have the floor, sir. No problem. We just give you one for now.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. A very good morning to you, Honorable Ministers. Good morning to you, Matsmambo. Good morning, senior government officials. Good morning, all participants, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation is on a comprehensive review of the implementation framework for community share ownership trusts. As has already been indicated by the Honorable Minister of Industry and Commerce, Honorable Mangalisa Ndlovu, we are in a drive and an effort to try and revitalize the community share ownership trust program, which program is actually focusing on ensuring that communities benefit from the commercial exploitation of their God-given resources. So in terms of my presentation outline, I'll focus on 4 key items. The first one is to do with the background to the establishment of community share ownership trust, which I think is important so that we all catch up as to where we are coming from, so that we can map the way forward together. So we'll touch on the background to the establishment of community share ownership trust. Why community share ownership trust? And where are we? And where do we want to go? Then I'll try and make a presentation on the current status of community share ownership trust, Timbori Papi, in terms of my community share ownership trust right now. Then touch on the community share ownership trust legal and policy environment. Where are we? Where are we coming from? And where would we want to go? Then the revitalize and focus, which is the implementation framework that we would recommend going forward, so that we have a robust community share ownership trust program going forward, so that we ensure as a nation that our communities benefit from the commercial exploitation of their God-given resources. So on the background, we're saying community ownership trusts were established as a national strategy to achieve broad-based indigenization and economic empowerment within the broader national indigenization and economic empowerment agenda. Broad-based in the sense that once you touch on that, on the communities, once you touch on the community share ownership trust, once you ensure that communities benefit, you actually touch on a number of individuals, or a number of communities, which communities, as we all know, are currently disadvantaged or can be classified as disadvantaged communities in Zimbabwe. So it's very important indeed. And the principal objective of the establishment of community share ownership trust was to achieve direct equity participation by the communities within which businesses are exploiting natural resources on a commercial basis. Direct equity participation. So we started off with the equity model in terms of community share ownership trust. So we are saying this is in line with our national constitution, and specifically provision number 13, subsection 4 of our constitution speaks to that. It's saying the state must ensure that local communities benefit from the resources in their areas. Very specific indeed on that one. Our local communities must benefit from the resources in their areas, from the commercial exploitation of resources in their areas. They have to benefit. So that's important. We're also saying this is supported by a number of regional and international instruments and blueprints, which include, but not limited to, the following. We have the UN Convention, UN International Convention on Economic and Social Rights. It speaks to that. We have the UN Resolution 1803, which establishes the principle of permanent sovereignty. It's talking to that. We have Article 26 of the UN Convention on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. We also have the UN Sustainable Development Goals, particularly goal number 1, which aspires to end poverty in all its forms everywhere. It's touching on the critical issue of ensuring that communities benefit. Communities the world over benefit from the commercial exploitation of their resources. We also have the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, the African Union AU Mining Vision of 2009. We have the AU Agenda 2063, and we're also saying the World Bank also has a blueprint on mining foundation trusts and funds, which is actually encouraging companies to ensure that they share proceeds from commercial exploitation of God-given resources with host communities. while we might not cover the details of what each and every framework or blueprint covers, it is important to note that they all speak to that. Communities should benefit from their God-given resources. And we are saying what we are gathered here for in terms of my community ownership trust, or our focus on community ownership trust, is not only a constitutional imperative, it is a national imperative, it is a regional imperative, it is a global imperative. It is an issue for social justice and an issue for economic justice. It is important that we take it on board and take it head on. Given that background and context, it is important that we look at the current status of community ownership trust, where we are coming from and where we are today. And we are saying 59 community ownership trusts representing the 60 rural district communities, or the 60 rural communities that we have in Zimbabwe, and 1 urban community were registered during the period 2011 to 2013. And we're saying out of these 59, only 23, and representing 25 communities, because there's 1 community ownership trust which is covering 3 community ownership trust, 3 communities rather. So out of the 23 that were funded, we have 25 communities that actually benefited. So out of the 259, only 23 representing 25 communities, that's 39%, were able to get some funding from qualifying businesses. That's the 23. And we're saying only 14 out of the 23, that's 24%, were able to get significant funding to initiate and complete projects for the benefit of their respective communities. Again, that percentage is actually very, very, very low. Of the 14 that got significant funding, currently only 6 are operational, and that presents a survival rate of 43%. That is, if we are taking those that got capitalized into consideration. But that survival rate is low, is at 10% if we are to consider or to take into consideration all the 59 community share ownership trusts that we have, that were registered. So we have a survival rate currently of 10%, which is not something that we can actually celebrate. It's very, very low. We expect all our communities throughout the country to benefit from the commercial exploitation of their God-given resources, especially given the fact that we have abundant resources throughout the country in terms of minerals, in terms of other resources, the soils and everything. All those are actually in abundance, and our communities should benefit. Yet we are saying currently, only about 10% are up and running, which means that they're actually benefiting. We also have to take note that only 2 qualifying businesses had by June 2018 successfully issued 10% shareholding each to their respective communities. And only these 2 communities were able to get dividends as and when they were declared. So I'm saying out of all the qualifying businesses, out of all the companies or the businesses that we have in Zimbabwe, which are involved in the commercial exploitation of the community's God-given resources, only 2 were able to issue shareholding in line with the indigenization and economic empowerment legislation that we had at that time. Only 2. The rest chose to, of those that at least attempted to comply, they chose to go for what was then called the seed capital, which was negotiated as some kind of a once-off payment to the communities so that they can actually start their projects and things like that. So the two, to be specific, are Blanket Mine in Matabeleland South, that's specifically Gwanda, and PPC. PPC is in Gwanda. At that time it was in Gwanda, as well as Mat North Umguza district. So those are the only two companies that managed to actually issue 10% shareholding to our communities. And the communities are still benefiting from the dividend right now, as I speak right now. Then, focusing again still on the current status of community ownership trust. We are saying, while this the indigenization legislation provided for, or provides for a wide range of natural resources, not only minerals, but are looking at a wide range of natural resources, from minerals, the soil that we have, the water, the birds, animals, all those natural resources are actually covered in terms of the indigenization and economic empowerment legislation. But we realize that the focus all along in terms of benefits that would accrue to communities, we're only focusing on the mineral resources, and that narrowed the revenue base for our communities to benefit. So as we move forward, it is important that we take all those other resources into consideration so that we broaden the revenue base, so that at least we try and run away from a situation whereby we would say this community doesn't have any natural resources which are being exploited on a commercial basis. And most of those resources are there and are actually being exploited on a commercial basis. On a positive note, it has to be noted that those community share ownership trusts that got significant funding, they were able to do a lot for their communities using the proceeds from the commercial exploitation of their resources. They were able to embark on projects that actually, in a big way, benefited their communities. Projects on social services provision, projects on infrastructure development, projects on enterprise development, projects on water and sanitation. All those projects, they actually managed to do those. And we have quite a number of projects that are actually done throughout the country, especially for those community ownership trusts that got something. And we do have, I have a few pictures, maybe 5 or 6 pictures, just to show some of the projects that the communities were able the communities through the community ownership trust were able to benefit from. That one, that's for Gwanda, is a drill rig that they purchased, and that drill rig was purchased to achieve 2 objectives. The first one, the social objective, to ensure that communities get clean, potable water, because water was a problem in that community, big time. And the other objective was to focus on enterprise development, rather, or sustainability of the commercial ownership trust, to generate revenue or to commercialize that drill rig. So it was 2-pronged, 70% commercial and 30% for the communities to benefit from the drill rig. We also have other community ownership trusts that purchased drill rigs. I remember Tongogara had a drill rig. Umuguza Community Ownership Trust also had a drill rig, and they actually assisted their communities big time in as far as that project is concerned. We also have dams that were constructed throughout the country by those community ownership trusts that benefited during that time from the commercial exploitation of their resources. This dam, that's for Bindura, small dam or small way in Bindura, done by Bindura Community Ownership Trust. I can see Mambo Msana nodding there. So that's true, that dam is there. And around that dam, we have a lot of activities, commercial activities by our own people in terms of market gardening and things like that. Then, Footbridge, that's in Mondorongezi, the community had serious problems with crossing that river, because the river is in between the business center or the community service center and the community. So for them to cross there, a lot of lives, I think, before were actually lost, And they thought it was an important project for them to embark upon, and they committed resources to that. And many other projects, that's for Mondorongezi. Then we have that. Rishabani, there is a school known as Rupemba, Midlands Province, Baba Honorable Ngube. Rupemba, I would like to say, is only a stone throw away from Mroa Diamonds. When you're going along Rutenga Road from Rishabani, if you turn left after a few kilometers, you go to Mroa Diamonds. If you turn right, you then go to Rupemba School. A few kilometers from the main road and a few kilometers from Mroa Diamonds. And that picture there was taken in 2016. And that's the before scenario, before the Commercial Ownership Trust chipped in with the resources that they got from the commercial exploitation of their resources. And that was the scenario. Looking at the picture that we have on the left there, it was a 2-classroom block in 2016. Classroom block A2. And right now, as it is right now, there were activities, learning activities taking place there. There were some people there, and the people, the teacher and the pupils, and that's what was, the picture on the left shows what was inside on that particular, at that particular moment. That beautiful lady teacher there, and the pupils there learning there. Learning was taking place. So the Commercial Ownership Trust, with proceeds now from the commercial or exploitation of their God-given resources, chipped in, and that was the first block that that school got from the Commercial Ownership Trust. I'm just trying to give a picture of the capacity and potential that the Commercial Ownership Trust had in ensuring that they develop their areas, benefiting from, of course, their God-given resources, and a lot can actually be done. That one on enterprise development, that's Zimplus Mondorongezi Commercial Ownership Trust. That's the 3-in-1 Commercial Ownership Trust that I was referring to earlier on. There is that company, Sable, that's Sable Park Estate, and our Commercial Ownership Trust, with proceeds that they got from the commercial exploitation of their resources, managed to acquire a stake in that company. To be specific, it's 33% stake in that company. Just trying to demonstrate the potential that the program has if it is done in the proper manner, and if we support it with the relevant legislation and things like that, we can actually achieve, without any problems, our aspirations for Vision 2030. So that's then such a project then, or the project that they have is assisting them in achieving 2 objectives as well. Sustainability of the Commercial Ownership Trust in the first place. Why? Because they have invested the money and they're actually generating revenue from that. They're getting profits from that business, a Sable Park. I think you have seen that brand, my shops, Manufara Nyama, Manufara Chicken, Irimo Sable. Our community, one of our communities, has a 33% stake in that. So sustainability, because they are generating profits from them. But also, most importantly, the other objective that they have managed to achieve, in as far as that project is concerned, is that of enhancing participation of their communities, grassroots communities, in mainstream economic activity. As Shamisi Panapa could right now, kana vachiwana chicken yavo from Sebo, patinoidya chicken muscat pana, tetitodya something that was produced by the community down there. And how do they participate in my communities? They have an outgrower scheme. That facility is for processing, marketing, and distribution of chicken, that company. But with an outgrower scheme, our communities are now able to produce chickens, my broilers, being supported by their own company. And they supply the broilers to this company for processing, for marketing, and for distribution. So it can be done, it has been done. The challenge, of course, is that like the figures that I gave before, not much was done. We're looking at the percentages, the survival rate. We're looking at the percentages in terms of capitalization. We're looking at the percentages in terms of those community ownership trusts that have been able to take off. Out of the 59, only 23. The rest seat 36, they suffered stillbirth. The major problem was to do with the legislation. That's problem number one. Governance issues, yes, later. But first and foremost, the major problem was to do with capitalization itself, which in itself was a function of the legal and the policy environment. So in trying to review the implementation framework of community share ownership trust, it is imperative that we actually look at the enabling environment in terms of the legal and policy framework, the extent to which it can actually, or it actually assisted us in unlocking the resources from the qualifying businesses. We're saying the biggest challenge in the execution of the crucial mandate, that this crucial mandate in Community Ownership Trust is to do with limited funding, which is largely due to the absence of a coherent, strong, consistent, harmonized legal and policy environment. First and foremost, yacho is incoherent, is fragmented, incoherent and fragmented. It's not button. We had quite a number of documents that put together would give you something that will present or give us that legal and policy environment. Fragmented in the sense that the first document that we have, and I started Instrument 21 of 2010, which served just to provide a definition of community ownership trust or community or establishment of a community ownership trust, which actually also assisted in defining my natural resources, assisted in defining my qualifying businesses, but actually ended there. And also maybe went further and said, community share ownership trust may get my resources from my qualifying businesses, or may also be considered as part of the indigenous and implementation plan. So there wasn't much. So applies to such an instrument 16 of 2013, there wasn't much. We had the presidential statement on the clarification of the indigenization of the natural resources sector. That's on the 12th of April 2018. Bring in this aspect that I'm talking about of inconsistency, redefining the natural resources sector into two, the existing and the new investment. So it wasn't consistent, it was incoherent, it wasn't coherent. And then the Finance Act of 2018 and also the Finance Act of 2020. I'll go straight to the Finance Act of 2020. The rest I think I've just done. In the Finance Act of 2020, Finance Act number 1 of 2020, what we have there is, I would like to say within the Finance Act of 2020, it's like we ended up winding up the legal and policy environment of community share ownership trust. Because the Finance Act number 1 of 2018 has already been alluded to by the Honorable Minister, presented in terms of my community share ownership trust, a scenario where they were saying like, it's not necessary for communities to benefit from our God-given resources. First and foremost, reducing the natural resources sector to only 2 minerals, diamond and platinum. And that's for the 5149 indigenization quota. And in addition to that, it then indicated that community share ownership trusts need not necessarily be part of the 5149. So in our view, it's like we're saying it was not necessary for us to do that. So as we move forward, I think we have to look at some of those things. We have to try and come up with legislation that's strong, that can be enforceable, that's consistent, that is coherent, and that will make those that implement the program able to do that in a manner that is proper. And that will also enable our communities to benefit from the commercial exploitation of their God-given resources. Beyond 2018, I would like to say from the research that we're conducting right now and the consultative processes already, we've had one workshop This is the second workshop, high-level workshop. It looks like we need to be corrected, that there hasn't been much in terms of funding of community share ownership trusts or communities in general from those qualifying businesses that are involved in the commercial exploitation of the natural resources. Not much, really. We need to be corrected, but that's what we gathered when we had the Chinoi workshop a few weeks ago. And maybe here we'll discuss and see if there's something that is happening. There isn't much, even in terms of corporate social responsibility. We have, as already been indicated by Honorable Ngube, a lot of companies that have actually come into the fold, exploiting God-given resources in all the communities that we have throughout the country. You go to Goromonzi, there's lithium. You go to Mutare, Manicaland, that's Mutare district, there's lithium. You go to Gwanda, there's lithium. We don't talk of gold and other minerals. When I was in Gwanda last week, Titawane's lithium, there's Gwanda Lithium Company, and one of our chiefs was saying, the Gwanda Lithium people are saying, no, our lithium is of low grade, so there's no way they can actually contribute. But they are processing lithium. Where are you getting your lithium from? We are getting our lithium from Berengwa. I tried to visit in Berengwa just to find, the good thing is that Nkosi Ngumbani is with us. Maybe we'll confirm if he's going to confirm if they are benefiting from the exploitation of the lithium in Berengwa, which lithium is being processed in Gwanda district. Maybe they are benefiting, I don't know. But that's the current scenario. The absence of legislation is a big issue here in as far as the issue of commercial ownership trust is concerned. Notably, on a positive note, we have companies that have continued to support my communities outside the legal framework in a very big way. We have Mimosa. They've actually gone a step ahead and established a policy where they meet Onkosi, our traditional leaders, twice a year. Policy. They get their requirements, they support them big time. And they have projects on the ground that have been supported beyond the arrangement that we had initially, being guided by the legislation that was there. Very commendable. Zimplats as well, very commendable indeed. So it can be done. Blanket mine, big time. Not directly, but because of the shareholding that they gave to the commercial ownership trust. I was looking at the figures this morning. The community has actually been able to benefit from the dividend that they got from Blanket Mine over the years since 2013, because they got the share in 2012. 2013 to today, to 2025, they've been able to get close to $10 million by way of dividend, not the seed capital commercial dividend, and they're getting that almost on an annual basis. Close to 10 million now, getting that on almost an annual basis. And for 2025 alone, Gorerino, so far, they've managed to get close to 2.5 million. Is it 2.2? But it's over 2 million this year. We are halfway into the year now, but they've actually been able to get that, which shows it can be done. It is important. That company is the only company, maybe one of the two companies that have actually been able to give shareholding to the communities. So the equity model, can we say it's not working, it's working? It depends. We'll actually have to interact on that and agree. Our focus on revitalization from our findings so far, the workshop that we had, the consultative processes that we had, the field visits that we've had, we are saying, going forward, we need to take into consideration a policy shift for community ownership trust, that's from the community ownership trust model at ITC, where we are focusing maybe only on the equity model, to what we would want to call the economic empowerment trust model. We are saying, yes, they have to benefit, but can it only be through equity or other means as well? So on that model, it's just a proposal, so that at least we have a shift. And also in terms of that focus, as the entities, the economic empowerment Economic Empowerment Trust in terms of their mandate, we have to look at them using the proceeds that they get from the commercial exploitation of their resources, their God-given resources, for purposes of sustainability. That's the investment that I was talking about. Sustainability, they invest instead of using the capital that they get. They invest that and invest for purpose of sustainability, and also invest to enhance participation of their local communities in mainstream economic activity. Then the proposed model, again related to the first one, we are saying we need clarity, or there has to be clarity on the commercial ownership trust legal and policy framework. We need to come up with a coherent, enforceable legislation that those that choose not to comply can actually be dealt with. So very important. But the proposal there, instead of the equity model alone, maybe we can consider the revenue sharing model. Say 3% of the revenue that they generate. And of the 3%, 2% will go to the Community Economic Empowerment Trust, and 1% will then go to the Equalization Fund. Equalization Fund, we are saying in the event that there are communities that do not have resources, any resources whatsoever, they need to benefit from that Equalization Fund. Those communities that do not have any resources. It's just a proposal. We think it's workable. We think it's fair. We are saying, yes, you are getting the resource, you're extracting the resource from our community, but you cannot take all that resource to be yours. Why not leave just 3%? 3%. Then issue stone out with the 3%. How can we share the 3% with other communities that do not have maybe 1%? So the 3%, that's a proposal. Then we also have to focus in terms of the revitalization strategy, the issue of governance and administrative framework of the Commercial Ownership Trust is presented by the trustees. The governance framework of the Commercial Ownership Trust program is actually presented in the trustee. So I'm saying let's revisit that to ensure that at least we have control. This is a government program, and government should actually have control over that. So we have to look at things like the founder always has to be the government of Zimbabwe, represented by the Minister of Industry and Commerce currently, or the minister responsible for the economic empowerment or in charge of the economic empowerment mandate of government. She should go control later. And also bring into the trustee the issue of stepping rights. So in the event that they go haywire, they can actually be controlled and summoned by the Honorable Minister. That's what we have in the generic deed. But I think it's important that we note that there are 1 or 2, 3 trustees that do not follow that pattern, and that's crucial. So we have to revisit the trustees I've just highlighted, but the purpose of revisiting the trustees is to ensure transparency and accountability of trustees in as far as the execution of their mandate is concerned. So they have to be governed by that framework that ensure transparency, accountability to government, accountability to the communities as well. So try and introduce maybe some kind of the general meeting arrangement where they have to report to the communities, but that has to be captured in the trustees. They have to report to the communities periodically, maybe annual general meeting arrangement, define who the members of the annual general meeting should be, so at least they report back to the community and also present their plans to the community. Then we also have a clear mandate for commercial ownership trust in terms of the focus. As I presented earlier, Pamsora, we were looking at social projects, infrastructure development projects, water and sanitation projects, and all these other projects. But we feel going forward it is important that we focus on the economic empowerment bit, like I've indicated. And we then present the Community Economic Empowerment Trust as the hub, the industrial hub for the rural industrialization and local enterprise project. So at least they fit well into the programs that we have in the provinces or in the districts and things like that, but being identified as an entity that has to use proceeds from the commercial exploitation of God-given resources to try and support the communities so that communities can actually participate fully in mainstream economic activity. Issues to do with institutional capacity building, that's another issue that has to be taken on board. Very important indeed. Issues to do with oversight, coordination, governance, and management of commercial ownership trust in general. Looking at the whole of government approach, very important. The stakeholders that we have at government level, the ministries that feed into the commercial ownership trust program, having some arrangement at national level. Then the devolved structure of government, those ministries or government departments at provincial level that have something to do with the commission or the overall program, economic empowerment, a benefit to the community from a commercial exploitation, having some other structure that starts with the responsibility to take certain tasks at that level. Then we have the corporate rescue plan in the two main categories in terms of the corporate social responsibility, in terms of the corporate rescue plan. Those that are currently dormant and those that have not taken off are proposing that they be reconstituted, supported, reconstituted, boards put together, then they start working as we then use the other means to unlock resources from the qualifying businesses. Then stakeholder sensitization, very important indeed. Already we are in the drive, high drive for stakeholder consultations. We have the stakeholders here with some stakeholder workshop, but we also have to go on the ground and make sure that we engage the communities, those that are supposed to benefit, so that they become aware of this important program. What hold those trustees community trust accountable for whatever they do, especially once they get more resources from their qualifying business. I think at this point in time I should say Tualumba, Siabonga, thank you. God bless you all. God bless our communities, I thank you.
Amen to that, Mr. Mahovela. Another round of applause for him for clearly giving us an outline of the state of affairs as of today. And I'm sure as we are going to be continuing after tea, we know where to start and how to proceed. At this moment, honorable ministers, with your indulgence, it's time for tea. Tea is ready, it's served. Protocol text that I ask honorable ministers, permanent secretaries, chair parliamentary portfolio committee, chief directors, chiefs, and joke to leave first. There is a, yes, apparently, honorable minister, the usher is going to lead you to where you're going to take your teas. We are breaking for 20 minutes only. And let's be back here by 11:20. The rest of us can use that room. There's a dining room at the back there. Please go there and have your teas. By 11:15, let's be back to reconvene. Thank you.